Hey, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. I am very excited. I feel like I start every podcast off saying that, but I still am. That's authentic. We are going to do something similar that we did a few podcasts ago, where I pull over a podcast I was invited to with Amie and Alana, going through full disclosures. So there's a lot of questions out there that we recognize needed and were being asked of us of I don't understand full disclosures or what they are or why they're needed because I've already gave truth. And we were noticing quite a few people showing up in the space where I've been in this for a few years now and we're still stuck. She's still in pain. Mel is still having struggle with empathy and just want to talk a little bit about that. So just a friendly, and it's not a reminder, but just that friendly nudge that stage two of recovery or phase two of recovery can't happen until certain work has been done. Typically, the thing that's said is no, there's nothing hidden, there's no secrets. We've already checked that box. So I'm just inviting you to listen to it from a little different lens. If you've never done a full therapeutic disclosure and hearing who it applies to and who it doesn't. And if you reflect on your own experience and you recognize your partner's still in pain, there's still a struggle with empathy, just to be open and listen to it from a different lens. And then we can always have some individual conversations about it. I'm really looking forward to hearing what your thoughts are on this, and we'll jump right into it. Welcome to Beyond the Facade podcast. I'm your host, Luke Gordon, and I'm thrilled to have you join me in this space today. What we're going to be doing is diving deep into the trials and triumphs and truths of seeking authenticity. Becoming your true self isn't about a single action or moment. It's a relentless pursuit, a commitment to self that reveals the rich connection and meaning that our life has to offer. So whether this is your first time tuning in or you're a regular listener, know this: what you're building here goes beyond a conversation. You're here to challenge, to change, and to celebrate the incredible journey of becoming your authentic self. Because when you dare to show up fully, the rewards are immeasurable. So welcome to Beyond the Facade. Let's get started.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Like we promised, we are beginning today in a multiple series of episodes around full therapeutic disclosures. We have Luke Gordon, who will be joining us in most of these. We hope, Luke, as we talk about specifically full therapeutic disclosures. And we are hoping to tackle all the ins and outs about this experience for many of you. And even if you have had one, maybe you are in the middle of considering one, we really hope that you hang with us over these next several weeks as we dive into full disclosures. Today, we are really wanting to focus on, and I'm just going to preface, I know I said this a couple times before we hit record, but one of the things that I hope our listeners walk away with from these episodes is not just what a full disclosure is, but what Choose Recovery Services does and considers a full therapeutic disclosure, because we do hold ourselves to, I think, a higher standard. And the way that we do them is a little bit different, a lot of bit different in many cases from other professionals, how they do them. And so I, as a employee of Choose Recovery, am very proud of how Choose has set the standard. I know that in the training that I've done, in the disclosures that I've done with both you, Alana, and Luke, have been some of the most remarkable experiences, but hard as hell going through for our couples who are in the middle of it. But definitely walk away every time feeling very proud of the work that we have done. And it is a lot of work. And so I think that's one of the questions we're going to get to further in episodes is, what do we do as professionals to help prepare a couple for this? But today we're going to talk about what a full therapeutic disclosure is, why you would need one. Some of you who are listening might be wondering, do I need one? Do I not? Hopefully we answer that question today. Then we'll tap in a little bit, like I said before, I think a healthy, productive disclosure would look like, and what a disclosure would look like that could potentially create more harm and injury. And unfortunately, all of us have seen that happen when we get clients that have said, oh, I've had one, and we get into it and it's, No wonder why you're more activated or scared to do this again. It wasn't done in a way that could give you the best possible outcome. So hopefully you listeners walk away with a little bit more information over the next few weeks around this. Okay, I just said a mouthful. Luke, I'm going to start with you if that's okay, Lana. I would love to hear from you, Luke. Like when someone says, because you work mostly with the betraying partner, I think just right out of the gate, I would love to hear what you generally tell someone who has acted out, why they need to consider giving this to their partner who they betrayed. A full
Yeah. What's interesting is, when I first get a chance to meet with the person that did the betraying, the addict, the betrayer, there's a lot of resistance. I hope this doesn't come up. I don't really want to talk about it. And then once you start talking about it, so don't worry. Don't just want to let you know, Luke, we already shared everything. She's already aware of it. There's a lot of stuff that comes up with full disclosure. And I just want to say, hey, me too. In my journey, me too. That's what I wanted to focus on is she knows all of it. So it's a journey. And one of the things that I'll use it as a tool to measure readiness for change.
Mm,
That a person recognizing and being open to a full disclosure says where I'm at in a place of ready for change. They're one of the person that's ready for it is chasing chasing healing, going like, what's going on? And I'm gonna give an analogy to set up the rest of this. When I was a little guy, one of the first times I ever went to a dentist, and dentists have a sorry if you're a dentist, by the way, dentists have a bad rap for me because of trauma. I didn't know when I was a little guy, I'm talking about like 5 years old, 4 years old. I didn't know that when they drill on you, that you're not supposed to feel it. Like, I had a dentist that didn't get me numb enough and didn't ask me any questions. I thought it was just supposed to hurt. So if you guys have ever had your tooth drilled on and they make it through the numbness, like, I remember just being a little guy, just tears, just crying, sobbing, and begging my parents to not go to the dentist. And I'm like, and my teeth would get so bad that I'd need root canals, right? And Alana, I don't know, a good portion of our relationship I've still felt for a very long period of time, don't go to the dentist and my teeth would get bad because of that trauma, right? Now, by the way, I'm sorry I'm using the word trauma talking about my experience, okay? I recognize it
Right.
doesn't compare
I'm gonna
anything.
interrupt you and just validate getting yeah, as a little person, getting your teeth done and not knowing how to have a voice and having that extreme pain is a form of medical trauma. And I had something very similar, and I used to have tears just pour down my
Yeah,
cheek,
what I'm saying.
and I didn't know I could say anything, so, like, I still will go to the dentist and my body freezes up as an adult. So, I'm just gonna validate that, yes, it's not an emotional trauma, and it is absolutely a trauma. So, keep going.
Appreciate you saying that. And I was 30 years old the first time I met a dentist that properly, not saying the rest of them didn't numb me up the right way, but actually, I remember him going, okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm a 30-year-old man, by the way. I remember him treating me like a little kid should have been treated. He's saying, "Here,
Mhm.
here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk through the whole thing. Here's what we're going to do. If you start to feel anything, I want you to do this. And hey, what questions do you have? What's happening?" I remember being like, those were two different experiences, right? I think about these people that go through and did the betraying and acted outside their values and traumatized their partner. When we talk about full disclosures, they only have bad experiences to compare the delivery of truth in, right? They only have experiences where they've been caught, where they're feeling a ridiculous amount of shame, when they're questioning whether they're worthy, where there's a lot of self loathing and self hate, AKA somebody's drilling on your mouth without Novocaine. And once, and even if I give that analogy, it's still hard to hear that this experience is going to be like nothing you've ever had before. You don't know what to compare this to because Choose Recovery Services process is way different than other experiences that you've had and maybe have even looked into. So, anyway,
Can I
go
give a
ahead.
quick, like, disclaimer? We're gonna do all of these episodes. We're gonna go through our whole process. So we're not gatekeeping anything. We're not saying, "Ooh, you have to come to us and you're gonna get the gold
Yeah,
standard and
no,
you can't get that anywhere else." One of the pillars of our company is we don't care where you get your support. We just wanna make sure you get the right support.
Yep.
And whether you're listening to this or your therapist is listening to this or your coach is listening to us, we're going to tell you the whole process so you know how to advocate for yourself to get good support and good help.
Yeah. And and it's funny, Alana, because when you say that, we don't care where you get this. And then I love the part of we just want it to be the right way. Because what we are passionate about is there's a lot of ways that this goes wrong and a lot of ways that people get hurt.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be through us, but the right care needs to happen. Amy, I don't know if I necessarily even answered your question. Did I even answer it?
What was the question?
What was the question?
You did, and then some, which is always awesome. But like the question was, what do you tell your betraying
Oh,
partners
thanks.
as to why they need to give this to their partner? I'm just going to repeat what you said there in case someone didn't pause and rewind that because it was worth it. It's a tool to measure readiness for change.
Mhm. Yep.
What we've also learned is the person who has betrayed benefits just as much as the person who's been betrayed in this
Absolutely.
and in very different ways. But this process, when done right, is so beneficial to both partners.
And I think, look at what you were saying. A lot of men come and they're like, they aren't ready. They're ready to get drilled in the mouth. And most of the time, as we've seen, when we look at our multidimensional partner trauma model that APSATS gives and where this full therapeutic disclosure falls in line, it is part of the rebuilding trust stage. It's that foundational layer of the healing pyramid of, okay, I need to get all the truth out there. The betrayed partner has a right to all of that truth, which is why we call it her right of truth. It does, in a sense, at least for me, start that way oftentimes where they're like, okay, 'cause they are going, I need truth. I can't trust if I don't have truth. So it oftentimes starts with this. But to your point, Alana, it is so much more than that when you go through this process. It's
Yeah.
not, it serves each individual and potentially the relationship.
Well, Alana, I appreciate the way you set it up. Like we're walls down. What did you say? Full transparency, like where we want you to see all the parts of it through these episodes. And one of the things that I really struggle with is I'm like, this is so important. You are investing in individual sessions, you're investing in group, and you're trying to negotiate this part. You're putting in so much work and you're trying to negotiate your way out of this part. And
Mm,
I'm like, what I want to do in my maddened brains is go like, stop. Don't negotiate this part. Put all that other work in, all that effort, all that other blood, sweat, and tears. Because the part that scares you the most, there's a reason. And it's not because of what you think is going to happen. It's because that's the part that holds you captive. So the part that a little bit I tell the people I work with is, do you want the relationship to work? Do you want this relationship? Are you in it? Yeah, I'm in it. Okay. All right. So you can't get to a place where you can see each other and hear each other and you be heard and really see until you've tackled the shame. That can't happen without the sharing of truths. So you can't go on to the next stage. You can't do stage 2 or 3. You can't. It's impossible.
mhm,
So,
mhm,
Well, it's interesting because, yeah, everything you're saying, 100% agree with that it really is foundational. I want to say this in the very first episode. It's not a magic pill that I get. And I'll say this to clients so many times and still like they hold on to it that it is. So it's really hard to internalize this message sometimes. But a full disclosure, sometimes I have clients who want to bring their partner kicking and screaming of like, they just need to do this and then we'll be okay. This is a foundational brick in the building of that foundation. It is very important. It is very healing. It's one of many puzzle pieces. It's not the puzzle. It's one piece that lays the foundation for so many other pieces, but you don't finish a full disclosure and now your relationship is fixed. And unfortunately, that happens a lot of times as we hold so much hope because they hear the importance of this and they hear all of the benefits that come from it. And then their brain just goes, I just got to get through the full disclosure and then we'll be okay.
Yeah, because what often is thought is what holds me captive is my secrets. That's not inaccurate, but what actually holds me captive is not my secrets, but my secrets allow me to uncover what the root is, right?
It allows you to uncover the root.
Uncover what the root is. So
How do
you
we get down to that root?
all you get the ability to be able to do by sharing the parts that you don't want to share is now you can actually do the work on what's the root
Yeah.
around
You
the
got to
root.
bring it all up. I describe it that way, like it's all been buried and we've done a remarkable job and parts of us have done a remarkable job burying it, but we've got to dig it all up and bring it up to the surface. That's that principle of awareness to see it, to look at it. Because if we don't look at it and see it, then we can't heal it. We can't fix it, change it. And that's why your quote of it's a tool to measure readiness of change just stood out to me so much because, yeah, if you're not willing to dig up the secrets that we're burying, then we can't change any of it. We've been using the language a lot of many puzzle pieces, the foundational layer. I just want to go over that healing pyramid again. It's how my brain works. What we're talking about here in terms of like, why do we need a full disclosure? So when we look at the healing pyramid, what it takes to heal a relationship after something like this, the pyramid goes first layer is truth and honesty. This is why disclosure lives here. The next is safety. The next is trust. The next is vulnerability. And then intimacy. And in that top pillar of intimacy, there are then 7 different levels, according to moi, of intimacy. And because intimacy isn't just sex, it's all the different ways that we connect in healthy areas: verbal, cognitive, emotional, psychological, spiritual, physical, sexual. The reason why I bring that up is because what you were saying, Alana, why it's not the magic pill. It is the foundational piece. And when you are struggling to find a sense of safety in a relationship, when you are like, I can't trust, he's saying all the right things, I feel like maybe it's different. I'm just really having a hard time trusting. Why? If you have not had a full right of truth and this process hasn't happened, it makes sense to me in my brain when I look at that pyramid why you might be really struggling to trust in that relationship. That's why, to me, to answer our question really today, like, why do we need a disclosure? Because I know those of you who are listening to us want the intimacy, want the connection, want the relationship to be renewed, restored, and repaired. We have to start here to get there.
And there's a quote in AA. And for those AA people who are listening, I'm so sorry because I can't remember it, so I'm gonna butcher it, but it was something along the lines of, "I can't let the thinking that got me here expect that to be the thinking that's gonna get me out of this."
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah. It's
they
like
talked
you can't pray your way out of something you behaved your way into. Those
okay, totally. But I think about that, and so many times when Luke or I are working with a person who has betrayed trust, what they think that they need to share or how they need to share it,
Mm.
and it's very inaccurate. Details that they're like, "Oh, really? I should be sharing that?" Or, "Oh, that they won't care about that." And we're like, "Whoa, hey, yeah, no, actually, that's pretty important."
Mhm.
It does require a level of humility to say, "Okay, the thinking processes that got me into those behaviors, that type of thinking is not good. It's not going to get me out, and I need to trust somebody who knows the process and knows what needs to be shared and how to share it and what my partner really needs to heal." That I think is a really another important piece of this process, which is why having the right help to move you through it is pretty important.
Absolutely. Luke, I just wanted to give you time. I feel like we've been talking a lot. Is there anything you want to
Oh,
say?
nothing's coming to mind.
That's it. Just thought I'd check.
Nothing. Yeah. Thoughts? You still there?
Just checking. The next piece to this, I think, would be helpful to discuss why we're talking so much about the way that Choose Recovery does these. Actually, piggybacks off what you were saying there, Alana. A lot of times we will hear, I've got most of the truth, or I think I have the most important pieces, or they have told me that I know everything that I need to know. So why do I need a full disclosure? We might hear that often. And so it really just validates what you were saying there a minute ago, Alana, of how you actually disclose truth matters, and what a betrayed partner needs to know, really needs to know, and might not need to know also matter. Because I've seen on the opposite end where too much, and when I say too much, I always get this phrase wrong, nitty gritty details that can cause more injury, which leads us, I think, into the next section here of there are helpful disclosures and there are hurtful disclosures. So, can we just talk about what the difference looks like?
I've had clients come to, and some of them have been happening from inpatient places that they've had these ones, and the inpatient center is so focused on the person who's betrayed that the partner gets totally left behind,
Mhm.
or that they've just had someone who wasn't properly trained. So, yeah, I've heard such horror stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
heart it's heartbreaking, it's more damaging. When you think about a betrayed partner and the trauma that they are experiencing already in every way possible, external, internal, one of the things that I think we pride ourselves on is trying our hardest to help prevent that re-injury, right? We want that's why we're so like safety, stabilization. Let's calm the triggers down. Let's see how we can manage a lot of those because every time you go into that fight, flight, freeze again, that trauma state, you are creating more and more of that deficit really in your system. You're getting more and more further away from you. Your vagus nerve is getting more and more hijacked. There's so much impact here that you've already experienced. We really want to help you betrayed partner from having more injury. And all of us have stories where it is grueling to hear how these betrayed partners have been so injured through but I just call it a botched disclosure. Um, so we really want to try to prevent that. So a botched would like Alana, what comes to mind when I say, yeah, this would be a botched disclosure if you've had this happen?
The first thing that comes to mind is where the betrayed partner does not get to ask any questions, that they are literally there to sit and listen and leave.
Yes.
Oh, there's no questions that they get to ask ahead of time. There's no questions during, there's no questions after. They are literally there. And I just think of like the trauma because part of what creates trauma is when we have no choice or no say or no voice in what's happening to us. And so that in of itself, where a betrayed partner is having to just sit there with a person who's betrayed them and a person in power and then just be talked at and left with all of that. Oh, that one unfortunately happens more often than I would like to hear. And that one it can be really re-traumatizing.
When I think about bots disclosure, I think about the way I would clean a room compared to the way Alana would clean a room. Say she's, hey, we got company coming over. We can get this party. And then I go about it. I'm like, yeah, it looks good. That's good. That's fine. It didn't look okay. It didn't look okay at all. And I'm in a hurry to get the job accomplished.
Oh,
And
yeah. Picked up versus clean.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, like my,
I
and
didn't
I'm,
fix up well. I clean.
and I'm looking at the room, I'm like, "Yeah, I don't see a big giant dish with cookie dough in it, like, we're good, like, we're fine. There's no animal messes on the floor." And I think I'm just my efficiency mechanism's kicking in, I'm doing what I can to just get through it. And I
Yes.
think botched with that. Instead of looking at the individual and going, "What is needed here?" So when Alana cleans, and I do here's the deal, I gotta have ownership. I can clean. Do I wanna clean and am I motivated to? That's the problem, okay?
Mm,
Do I need guidance? Yeah, probably I need to slow down is what I need to do. So what botched disclosure is like efficient. It's like it's not done with the people in mind,
mhm.
and it's not done with what is needed right now. That takes a lot of time and energy. That is a significant process.
What I just wanna say that again. You said, "Look at the individual and what is needed here." And even sometimes I'll be talking with one of our coaches, and they're like, "What's the way we do it?" I'll say, "Sure, there's a way that is the" what are you grinning at, Luke?
You started with "shh," and I was like, "Let's you like, you shush 'em?"
Both of you, my screen keeps freezing, and so I didn't know if, like, I was frozen there. Anyway,
No, you're good.
no, but sometimes I'll have coaches come to me and they'll go, what's the right way to do this?" I have to retrain them. There's no right way. Like, sure, we have a standard that we start with, but we have to be ready as professionals to really look at the situation, look at the individual, look at what is going to be most helpful and most healing, and be willing to adjust as needed. So that of just what is needed here for this particular individual and this particular couple.
Yeah.
So important.
And it's interesting because we've all oh, go ahead, Amy.
No, go.
We've all done that. The 3 of us have done this. There's been attempts that haven't been good to more systemize it, to explain it to the client in a way that y'all that are listening, in a way that makes it easy to understand and going, "Okay, that makes sense." There's so much of this that there's a process, but we really have to understand what's needed, and I wanna say what my experience of being on the other side with working with, Alana and Amy is one of the first documents that is filled out and understood is what she needs. Like
They
sorry, thank you. What they need. The person that's been betrayed, the person that's been hurt, the person that attachment injury. And it slowed down. And I don't start with the process with the betrayer until I am crystal clear with what is needed in that moment. So, and it's important.
You can see how important that is just by slowing the betrayed partner down so that they can go, "What do I need?"
Mm,
And that's why this takes time, and it goes back to what you were saying, like, why this is not to be rushed or hurried or quick process, because it takes time to be able to even articulate that for a lot of our betrayed partners. There's another thing that came to mind when you were talking too, Luke, with the analogy of cleaning the room. I think sometimes when it's hurried, rushed, and the betrayed partner is like, "Oh, I'll just going along with your analogy, I'll just tell them like that's over there in that side of the room and that's over there in that side of the room. And yeah, I hid that in the closet. There, it's fine. It's fine." The language that can be potentially abusive or destructive that often accompanies a full disclosure, when not carefully fine combed through, can create additional injury. And I've seen that far too many times. And that's one of the things that I know it goes through multiple eyes to make sure that as a betrayed partner, when you are hearing that truth, the way that it is delivered is with as much empathy and I'm going to just say healthy language as possible. Again, because our goal is to help prevent as much as possible re-injury. It's already, I've heard it described as a scheduled trauma. I used to repeat that. I don't love that anymore. I don't like calling it that anymore. And it's hard. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. Like, it's hard to hear truth. It's hard to give truth. It's hard to hear truth, but
you're still at the dentist,
truth can
you
set you
know?
free. Truth
Yeah.
can fix the broken tooth, and that's what I think I know a lot of you are looking for in this broken
Well,
relationship rupture.
a lot of times the person that's in the betraying, they're trying to expedite the process. That was the cleaning
Yeah,
of the room. But what's
yeah.
interesting is if you look at this, a lot of my motivation was, hey, if Alana's out of pain, then I can be out of pain. And that was
Mhm.
selfish, right? A lot of it was is don't tell her anything bad because then she'll be in pain and then I'll be in pain. If I got right down to it, I was scared of pain. Okay. I don't want that. But I mean, if you think about it, like this first stage is the betrayed partner has to go through like seeking like so much safety. She's so diligent about how she goes about it. There's so many ruminating thoughts, just like the brain going all sorts of places, so much distrust. The quicker we can get to that full disclosure, the less time she needs to be there. Not saying that's not going to exist after a full disclosure, not saying at all, but often it's drug out negotiating with that process.
Yeah, we see that a lot.
Yeah, and so I do think there is like a window that we do try to aim for, but again, this is really individualized where I'll
Mhm.
have some clients and it's really rare, but we'll whip out a disclosure in a matter of just a couple of weeks, or we'll do it in an intensive where you come 3 days and we are doing nothing but disclosure work. But then I've had some too where it's a decade later, she wants or he wants a full disclosure, and they go, "I waited this long. You take as much time as you need that it can be done well, and we've taken a year to do disclosure." But those are outliers. On average, I do like to see around 6 to 8 weeks for
Mhm.
the disclosure process. Long enough that we have the ability to be thorough, but short enough that we are focused and we are starting and finishing, and it's not drug out for months. So that person who's been betrayed can get that support sooner.
And get the truth sooner.
And here's one other piece to this. The reason we're doing multiple episodes on this, and when I say multiple, I don't know how many, but probably 6, 7, however many we need, is because we could rattle this all off in one episode and make it super short and super condensed. But that's not what we want in our full disclosure process. And that's not what we're going to do in explaining it. We're going to slow this down. Like in this episode, you're probably going, that was really helpful. And what the heck did I even learn? Because we haven't even talked about any of the steps yet of full disclosure. And we're about to wrap up this episode. But we are slowing this down and allowing you to really sit with all the pieces of the process
Mhm.
so that you can hear it, you can understand it. And then again, you can advocate for yourself to get this, whether you're advocating in your relationship for this, or you're advocating for a professional to go get trained in this, or you're looking for the right support.
I love that you said that. And on the tail of that, Alana, if I may, I would love our listeners who have been betrayed to walk away because I want you to walk away with something and maybe walk away asking yourself that question of what do I need? What do I need for my right of truth? What pieces might be missing? I love the analogy of the puzzle pieces. I feel like the just whether trickle disclosure or discovery, that initial experience is it sets a bomb off in your head, and now you have all these puzzle pieces. And I look at a disclosure as very helpful in putting these puzzle pieces back together. That your human brain, by the way, is designed to try and figure out and find out. If it doesn't, oftentimes it then starts to turn against you. That's where you might feel like maybe if I was more, or if I hadn't, or if I should have, because your brain's trying to figure something out. It's trying to find a piece. So I'd love for you to just be self reflective in that and notice if you are finding yourself stuck. Maybe you find yourself in self blame because you don't have a piece of the truth. Maybe you find yourself questioning, doubting your partner's words right now. Just notice that. Be aware of how often that's coming up for you and ask that really hard, I think, question of what do I need in my right of truth and see what comes up. This can be great to work with your professional around as well, because there can be some resistance there. But and then Luke, I'm just curious, does anything come to mind for you? Maybe if a betraying partner is listening to this, what would you challenge them to maybe think and consider based
The
on
only
this?
thing that's coming to my mind right now is just please stop telling your partner they know everything. Please stop telling them that you almost spit out your water, Amy. Um, please stop telling your partner they know everything when you've had decades of breaths on this earth and you think you've disclosed all of your experiences. Stop gaslighting them like that.
Mm,
Stop. Please, and I'm doing that not advocate so much for the betrayed as I am for you getting healthy, and you can't me lying to myself over and over again just pushes that further down the road, and hey, it makes sense why that's being said. So I don't wanna take that away from the reason, right? Because I did wanna focus on there's no I didn't murder anybody, that's not gonna come out during a disclosure. Anyway,
And I'll just put out there if, and I've had clients tell me this, I don't know what I need. I don't know. If you're hearing that question and you just say, I don't know, that's okay. Still sit with it. Still ask yourself and let that question just be there and let yourself not know. And as you let yourself not know, but stay curious, it allows that to start to open up within you. And as you listen to all these episodes, you will start to put more and more of that together. So, welcome to our disclosure mini series. And we're glad you're with us. And we look forward to tackling this more next week.
hey, thanks for joining us today. If this is something that you connected with, I'd love to meet with you more and talk about it. So what you can do is go to chooserecoveryservices.com or check the show notes. And there what we can do is set up a quick conversation to meet. Thanks so much for listening to Beyond the Facade, where we unmask the authentic self.